All right, now we're ready. Okay. I know.
What happens when it goes on is I'm scratching my
Oh my god, just like, that was me all the time, always like itching my face. Anyways, hello friends. We are coming in today. I almost said coming in hot with you today. I don't know English, I guess. With Katie, ChronoKatie today. We're going to talk about ChronoTrigger. Yes, we got the best to talk about it. So we are joined here with DrownedSummer.
Hello.
ChronoKatie, of course.
Hello.
Doctur.
Hello, everybody.
Shadow.
Yo, wear your masks.
Yeah, yes, wear your mask. And Vanessa, Drunk Gamerette. And also
Hi.
me, Miss Hylia. Yes, we've got some people in the chat very excited already. Oh, is that your emote, Katie?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
Oh my god.
yeah, cool.
I love it.
She recently got those approved.
Like, come on.
You recently got those approved?
What's that?
You got those recently approved?
No, not recently. It was
Oh.
a couple years ago.
Oh,
Like
okay.
2 years ago, maybe.
And there's Drowned with his emotes in the chat. My emotes are lame, but I need to get better ones. So yeah, I wanted to kind of ask everybody first before we get started. So we have 2 people in here who have not played ChronoTrigger, but the people who are in here that have played it really hardcore and know all about it. So I have not played ChronoTrigger. I will say that right now. So I'm going to take a step back and kind of just ask questions this week. And Vanessa has also not played ChronoTrigger. But we have, I know, but we have started it. I'm 2 hours in. I've been 2 hours in for a while. Vanessa, have you started it?
I have it downloaded.
That's
It's
good.
a step in the right direction. I mean, I'm pretty sure from what I saw of Hylia playing it, she managed to get the worst verdict in the court case.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
Yes.
I was more into like acting it out than I don't even know what I was doing, but I pushed what's her name? I can't remember. What was her name? The girl that I pushed her out of the way for candy too many times, and I was like,
Small.
yes, I was like, bitch, move, and I got in trouble for that. So
I will quickly say, Lucy started it just before, like about an hour ago, and she decided to name Marl Drown.
did she? Oh, that's cute.
Oh, okay.
All right, so let's
You'll
just
be living with that choice then.
yeah.
I know it's wrong, but I always pronounce her name Marley. I know it's wrong, but it just sounds so much cuter to me and fits her character better.
I did that too, though, because like when I was playing it, I was like Marl, and I was like, I don't like that name. I think her name's Marley. I said
know.
that too. So, and that's been kind of a
Always pronounced it without the E, and then 20 years later, Final Fantasy VII Remake confirmed that I was correct.
oh my gosh, yeah. No, I call her Marley too.
Yeah, that was...
Marley sounds way cute. Marley
What?
sounds way.
I know Marley's cuter than Marl. I'm just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, it's her personality.
I kind of agree, actually.
Yeah.
It does sound cuter.
Yeah, all right, so let's go ahead and start. So this is for Katie, and Katie, you were like, I brought some props today, but I got a question for your props.
Wow.
So I was going to say, tell us how much you love ChronoTrigger, and do you have any collector's items for ChronoTrigger?
How much I love it?
Yes.
Oh my god. Like, whenever anyone asks me the question, I'm always like, it's basically my favorite anything. Like I'm always thinking, I'm like, okay, favorite like game. I'm like, no, it's like more than that. I'm like, it's just my favorite like anything ever, story, like I define my whole internet personality on it, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we all have something like that.
Of course. How old were you when you played it?
How old would I have been? I think I was 17.
Oh,
actually.
okay. So this was
Yeah,
like
I think
a coming of age for you
I
almost.
I actually didn't play the SNES version. Like I didn't grow up. Yeah, no. Like as much as I yap about it, like I was not there from the beginning. So.
Oh my gosh.
No, I originally played it on DS actually.
Oh, okay.
On the yeah, but no, I do have, as you would imagine, a ton of like memorabilia and stuff, and like it's kind of like my thing where I'm like I tell my friends, like, if you ever find anything fan made whatever on the internet, link it to me and I'll probably buy it or something.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Like I have a goal. I have to have every single piece of ChronoTrigger memorabilia or anything ever, right? And I have like a ton that like I like did like there's still like tons of that's not here, but like I don't know, should I show some of it?
Yes, show us.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I
I
wanted.
brought, like, I have like these, for example. These are the
Oh my
I
god.
think it's
Oh,
formation.
cool.
I think it's like formation arts. I bought these like, oh god, like 9 years ago or something.
Oh my
and like
god.
they get dusty, and I dust them every now and then. But like these things
Oh,
are so
that's
hard
so
to find
cool.
now too. So I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah.
They've broken a little bit, and I've had to fix them. And
Not my
there's
figures.
that one. There's some that are kind of like tiny bit spoilery, but yeah.
That's okay.
That's okay.
We will do spoilers. Anybody listening, even me and Vanessa who have not played it, we're gonna get
Okay.
spoilers, so it's all right.
Like I said, there's like tons of other things. Like back there, you can actually see like I've got that's all ChronoTrigger right there, that wall right there, and then there's one right in front of me, and then like I have the soundtrack here. The
Oh my
Japanese
god.
Soundtrack. My boyfriend and I are super into collecting like those like perler things, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like yeah, and here's a Chrono. I have a Magus back
Wow, that's a huge
there.
one.
So, oh, my favorite one, and it's from a iconic scene from the game. And
Yeah.
it's probably like the scene everyone thinks of when they think of the game. But I have this bad boy right here.
Holy crap.
Hey,
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
wait,
Wow,
is that like
that's
a
so cool.
shadow box kind of thing?
Yeah, that's exactly what it
Oh,
is. Yeah.
it's all 3D.
I got a couple of them at C2E2 because I live in Chicago,
Mm.
so we go to that every year. Yeah,
I'm from
Oh, that's
Chicago.
I have a lot. Unfortunately, it's not a series that has like a ton of love in terms of like merchandise and stuff, but it also means that it's going to be easier to check it all off eventually one day.
Exactly. You'll have every collector's
Yeah.
item because
Good
there
ways
isn't
looking
much.
at it.
Yeah. And then so another question for just you, Katie, is like tell us about what kind of made you love it so much, because you said you played this when you were 17. That's kind of a good like, you know, leaving child coming into adulthood, and that could have something to do with it, but what made you love it so much?
I think like I love time travel stories. I've
Mhm.
always loved time travel stories. I loved like Back to the Future when I was like a kid. So I don't know, time travel is just really cool to me and fascinating because it's so hard to get right.
Yeah.
So that drew me in for sure. And I was huge into Dragon Ball when I was a kid, and still am. Like I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I watched it with my cousin all the time. So the art style like caught my eye like almost right away. And I think I had seen like images of it like on the internet, like when I was first getting into the internet. I was huge into the IGN community. Like I like did a bunch of blogs for them. They had this like sub-site where you could blog for them. I wrote for them a little bit. I
Really?
did like
Oh my
freelance stuff. Yeah. And there was a review, I think, of the DS version when it came out. It was written by Mark Bozon, who used to work there, and he reviewed the game. And I remember it was just like talking about how it's this all-time classic that like everyone remembers and everyone loves, and is basically like a perfect game. And I'm like, I like get into like hype statements like that. Like I'm always like, oh, I gotta see what the fuss is about that, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like when somebody says that, like I have to know. Yeah, I have to know. And I remember I was like, okay, so they're saying it's like this perfect game, and it's the art style is, you know, Dragon Ball, which I love, and it's time. I'm like, how have I not played this? So it was like one of the very few times ever where a review legit made me go out and buy like a game. Like that was because of it, and like I went out and got it, and yeah, played it. And I think like all those elements are definitely a reason I love it, but it's just one of those like perfect storm cases.
Right.
Every single thing about the game is like amazing. The music is like will just get under your skin. The story is so well written, and I'm a wannabe writer, so like I like am big on like good writing and storytelling and stuff, and it's by far like one of the best out there. It's like I can never answer like what, like if it's one particular thing that made me like fall in love with it, but it's more just it's a perfect mix of like everything.
Right.
It's not the most exciting answer, but like yeah, that really is what it is. It's that good. That's the thing about it.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to explain sometimes why our favorite
Mhm.
games are our favorites. They just kind of stick with us.
Yeah.
You know, like
I mean, like there's so many things to it. Like it's I love like visual variety in things. Like I don't like when something looks the same for too long in like a story or something. And it's made of that, like, right? Because like each time period is like a different set piece and looks completely different from the last and has a completely different mood from the last. So it's always keeping your attention because you're always seeing new things, feeling new things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, that's an awesome answer. So now to move on to kind of like our own experiences. So I was going to ask the team. Oh, I lost my question. So this is kind of I'm going to call on different people. What was your first experience with ChronoTrigger and how old are you and what platform was it on? So Katie, you said that you were 17 and you played the DS version and you talked 2008. Okay. So wow.
That's when the DS version released. Mm-hmm.
Gosh, it feels like so long ago, but it wasn't. But
I know.
I don't know. The 2000s are weird to me. But I wanted to start off with Summer. What was kind of your first experience and all that?
So in the UK, there was a magazine. There was a SNES exclusive magazine called Superplay, and they tended to cover a lot of RPGs, and it was through that I discovered ChronoTrigger and both Final Fantasy VI.
Oh.
And got them both for my birthday back in '95. Imported. Well, there was a shop which I think was in Leeds, where we got these got imported versions for both games, and got ChronoTrigger and Final Fantasy VI for my birthday that year, and loved both of them. And they were both pretty much my first exposure to Japanese RPGs that were sort of turn-based as well. I mean, the first Square game I played was Secret of Mana, but I possibly didn't make the connection it was the same company until a bit later.
Okay.
And Chrono was, my first experience of playing a JRPG. The story was amazing. The characters were fantastic. There's a couple of bits I had some criticisms of it, but overall, for a very long time, it was my favourite game.
Yeah.
I mean, I played it to death. I played it because it's got obviously New Game Plus. I think maybe I probably played it about 30, 40 times.
Oh wow! How old were you when you played it?
I was 15.
15. Okay, so this is a young game for a lot of us. I'm going to move on to Doctur. So Doctur, what's your answer with these?
Actually, my first experience with the game was this year.
Really?
I hadn't started playing. Yep, I hadn't started playing it until this year, and so that being said, I played on the Steam port.
Okay.
Which I mean, I try to play all my things on it's just a good place to have everything. I own every Final Fantasy game on Steam's library, too. I can't remember exactly why it's one of those games that I have a friend that I used to work with. His name is Kevin, and he just like talked nonstop about ChronoTrigger all the time. And he always talked, you should play it, try to like explain to me like kind of the story beats, like the general story beats. And it sounded super interesting. And it wasn't until I had an interaction with someone on Twitter, and I can't remember who it was. I wish I did, but specifically they were talking about ChronoTrigger and whatever tweet that they made, and I had like made the comment that like, oh my gosh, you should totally play it. And I don't know why that was. And I was like, thought about Kevin. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna finally play it.
Oh my god.
And it's one of those games that like, and there's a lot of games that are kind of slow burn for me that you don't like get into it right away, but ChronoTrigger for me, like right away I was hooked.
Yes.
Like right away I was interested.
Yes.
And I think the big thing was the thing that really hooked me right away, that I was like, oh, this is going to be a different experience in video games, was when you have the trial at the very beginning, and you have to answer the questions, and then it shows me a cutscene of what my character did in that moment. I was like, oh no, I did mess up. And didn't even realize it.
Yeah. Oh my god.
In the fact you just immediately, most times, in the fact you just don't know what you're doing. And like the first time I played, it was like, well, messed that up.
Yeah.
I know.
That's the thing. That's the thing about it too. I just wanted to say, like, a lot of RPGs, they start off really slow.
Yes.
And it's more about like getting it, but like it hits the ground running like right away. And
Yeah.
That's one of the best things about it. It grabs your attention like right away.
Yeah.
And it does a really good job of like a particularly good job of like maintaining it like throughout the game.
Yeah. Oh, the pacing is one of the biggest reasons I love it. It's
absolutely
so perfect. It's so
The
perfect.
pacing of it's fantastic. I mean,
oh yeah.
I'll get on to the other bits basically.
Yeah, that's awesome though, because I did notice it kind of just made a full dive the first couple hours I played, and I was like this trial, and I was like, I'm really being put up to death right now. I just started, like, give me a break.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those, I don't know, I think like it really spoke to like the unfairness, that like that emotion that we as humans feel when you're being treated unfairly. Is like, it's a really like kind of a heart-wrenching thing. You don't really know how to react to it, and like that game did a really good job of replicating that. And like, I just always am going to be hooked in games that like can really trigger like real human emotion from a video game. Those are the ones I always like.
Yeah,
I
100%.
will say the courtroom scene is still, even I replayed it on Twitch last year, and that stained glass that you just see in the courtroom, that like they only used for like 2 bits in the entire game. So that is just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And this is like one of the last couple of. It was one of the few 32-bit games they did on the SNES. I think one of the other ones was like Donkey Kong Country and Secret of Mana 2.
I was gonna say the art is really pretty. Like, I was really impressed with the sprites so far. Especially,
It looks good.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
It looks great. All right, so Shadow, what was your first experience? Have you played this game? I think you said you did.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
This was, if I remember correctly, there were only a few like expensive ass cartridges I bought on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I think this was the first one. There was also like Street Fighter Turbo, Super Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat. But this one, if I remember correctly, was $80 when it came out, and that was huge because cartridges were only 50. So I was 14 at the time when I played it, and the art style really resonated with me because if I remember correctly, in New York City, it was one of the few cities that they tried launching Dragon Ball, the cartoon, in America. And so I got to see it, but it was like very brief, a couple episodes. I didn't know what it was. I just remember that art style, and then I saw it in ChronoTrigger, and I was like, wait, what? Is this connected to that anime that I watched? And like, I totally dove in. Yeah, so like I fell in love with the game pretty much from the jump.
Wow.
That's cool. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's like it was actually kind of a tough game to get back then.
Really?
Like, yeah, it was on the more expensive side. It was a little on the rarer side. Like, a lot of people didn't play it for that reason.
I wonder if that's why.
Yeah, so I used to get paid for good grades, and so I had to pretty much like, be an A+ student all the way to be able to earn money for it.
Wow, because I'm wondering if that's the reason why it's kind of a niche game now. Like, I hear about it from people who are like RPG fans, but I don't like the general, like my boyfriend who very much is not an RPG fan. He doesn't really know much about it and just kind of like is like meh, like okay, I wonder if that's kind of why. But Vanessa, I have a question for you because you have not played it, you have just downloaded it. So now that
I'm sorry,
it's okay, I played 2 hours of it. I'm not much better than you. Why do you want to play it? Like, what makes you want to play it? Is it just because we keep telling you to?
Peer pressure.
You should, definitely.
No, so like, same with Katie. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. Grew up watching that along with Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
And then I'm also a simp for Square Enix, so anything from them.
Same though.
We all are.
All their games. They have my money. I should probably rewire my direct deposit to transfer to their accounts, and they could just send me.
Right.
But
This is all just part of my nefarious plan too, to like get them to reboot the series or something. By the way, I'm just trying to get everyone into it so that Square.
Yeah.
no, that'll work. If the fans demand it, right? Yeah, no. If the
I
fans
think they have for about 20 years, and this.
Yeah. The fans demand it, we'll get it. Like.
I think the fans are demanding that Drunk Gamerette stream ChronoTrigger when she finally plays it.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
We should. Yes, you should. All right, so let's go on to the next question. So, I don't know much about this game, but everything I've seen is saying that this game could be thought of as the juggernaut of JRPGs, as it is developed by Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and Dragon Ball Z creators. And then Drown, you put in that this development team was called the Dream Team because it was so many different successful games, successful shows put into one single game. Do you guys think that's the reason why it is so successful? And I would like to start that off with Katie.
Yeah. It makes sense. Like I mean, because you have all those talents, right? You have Toriyama's art style, you have Uematsu's music, you have like Yuji Horii, who's great at writing, Sakaguchi, like, so it makes sense. Like, it's just like I said, it feels like a perfect storm of like, and that adds up because the team was literally like just the biggest talents in the industry all coming together at once.
Yeah.
But I think that probably is why. It's hard to say exactly if that's the reason it works like so well, but it makes sense to me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad you knew the names because I did not know the names. So I'm glad you identified that. And then I wanted to go off to not Shadow. I'm sorry, Summer. Why do you think? Do you think that was kind of the reason why?
I'll also say one very controversial. I'm not a fan of Dragon Ball.
You aren't?
I don't think it was ever really. No, but I don't think it was ever really. I don't think it was ever really shown in the UK. I never got to see it until we got like Sky like years later.
Yeah.
It's like watched the episode and gone, it's all right. I can see obviously I can see the art connection because obviously Chrono rather frequently gets called Goku as a.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's the fact the combination of talents, definitely the right individual style. All of the characters are very, very distinct. Even, the fact that your actual lead is a silent protagonist and still has shitloads of personality, and the combat it's not a very complex RPG in certain ways. The combat is most of the weapons and the armor is kind of like it's a lateral upgrade in a lot of places. It's kind of like, and all the moves it's just a very, very perfect RPG. There's not a huge amount that I have to criticize with it, and there's very little of it that's not just sort of a perfect experience and still even holds up now.
Right.
Fun fact: I once did a playthrough of the game. Just real quick, I
named
ahead. I named all the characters because you can name them. I named them after the character they looked like in Dragon Ball.
Oh my gosh! Wait, so who did you name who?
I named Luca Boma. I think I named like Ayla Launch. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, I would do that too though because I was a big Dragon Ball fan growing up because I had brothers, so I didn't have a choice. And then Doctur kind of. I mean, you've played this very recently, so do you think that's kind of the reason for its success is because of these amazing developers?
I'm gonna say yes and no. No, because I think the game is just absolutely phenomenal enough to stand up on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody can really deny the fact that Square Enix is a massive company that people will literally just eat up anything and save. So them being the one who produced it got it into the hands of people quicker.
Yeah.
If it would have been made by some sort of smaller development company, it would have leaked and then I would firmly believe that people would have talked about it enough to get the sales to where they still would have landed, but Square Enix made it happen immediately.
Oh yeah.
That's my thought on that.
Can I chime in on this real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Shadow.
I think I have a very simple answer, and I want to say yes wholeheartedly, because this basically began with the idea of especially Sakaguchi, who was just like we four need to do something that hasn't been done before, and when you have that kind of mentality going into something, more often than not, you're pouring everything that you've got into it, all your talent, all your skill, and so it's going to end up becoming something special and something great. And so, yeah, I totally believe that was the reason why it was an amazing game. I feel like they put extra effort and everything that they had in themselves into the game.
Yeah, definitely.
It was a labor of love. The composer, Yasunori Mitsuda, he worked tirelessly to do the music for the game, and they even were if you can't deliver something good enough, you're off the project, so he'd work overtime and stuff. He poured his heart into that soundtrack to the point where I think he was hospitalized.
Oh my god,
it was that bad, and it shows because the music is beautiful.
It is really good.
Yeah, it's a labor of love, the game. Yeah.
Crunch when it's actually an expression of passion rather than it being just exploitative work practices. It's kind of obviously you can achieve fantastic things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's just like it's a big thing about like it's a big thing in Japanese culture too. To like, like get to that point where that's how much work. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Japanese. I was gonna move to Japan, but we discovered it's a big workaholic culture, and I was not about that life, so I decided not to. But yes, I think that's why they produce such good things, is because they work so hard. But yeah, they definitely go Japan. So moving on to the next question. So we're gonna talk about the art style a little bit. And Katie, you said something a little bit earlier. So I guess there's different art styles. So every time I see Chrono Trigger, I just see the anime CGI scenes. CGI, I say that loosely. It's more just like the anime movie scenes. So Chrono Trigger has a different art style than a lot of Square Enix games. Instead of the traditional CGI, it went with an anime theme for the cutscenes. So what do you guys think about this format rather than the CGI that we get, having something new? And Vanessa, you actually had something to say about this, so I'm going to start that with you. So, because you've seen it, like the cutscenes.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't ready.
No, it's okay. I pulled you out of your trance.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. Can you repeat that question?
No, I was just saying, what do you think about like the anime cutscenes rather than CGI?
Oh, the anime cutscenes? Oh, it's freaking dope. I think that, well, like, you know, as a pretty lame, super cool person, anime fan, just being in the game and being transferred into like when they get like their serious kind of events happening, and it goes into like those anime scenes, you feel like, oh, hey, I'm part of an anime too, kind of, but you're like, sorry, does that make sense?
No, it does. It's like kind of the best of both worlds, you know?
Yeah, totally best of both worlds. You feel like you're watching the anime, but also playing along with it.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah. The game itself kind of feels like an anime at times too.
A little bit.
Yeah. That's dope.
Like a pixelated anime. So Doctor, what do you think about the anime art style?
Simple answer from me, I love anime. So it's all, you know.
Perfect answer.
So that's the whole thing. So two thumbs up. I was really a big fan of that.
Right. And then Katie, what did you think about that? And so you played the DS version first. So was it anime styled in the DS version?
The anime cutscenes were added in the PlayStation version because they couldn't do it on the Super Nintendo. But
right.
They were added in the PlayStation version, and then they were in all subsequent entries. So they're in the DS version. And for me, it makes the game age better.
Yeah.
Because like if they had tried CGI, it would look outdated now. But 2D animation's pretty timeless. So for me, it only helps the fact that Chrono Trigger doesn't age. That's the thing about it. It hasn't aged at all.
I didn't think of it like that. Yeah, it doesn't really age the same way like Final Fantasy VI does or Final Fantasy VII. So maybe that's why it hasn't been redone.
7 especially. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then Shadow, what do you think about all that?
Well, I played it on the Super Nintendo first, and so it was a long time before I actually got to play a version that had the cutscenes. So I feel like I got to appreciate them in a very unique way, because when Square Enix was re-releasing games on the PlayStation, one of the bonuses and their selling points was like, hey, if you buy Final Fantasy Chronicles and you buy Final Fantasy Anthology and Chrono Trigger, you're going to get these bonus cutscenes. Here's a new reason to dive into the game.
Right.
And it was fantastic, especially at that point I was already a Dragon Ball fan. So I loved it. I gobbled it up, and I got to like relive that experience all over again, because by that time I had kind of forgotten the game.
Yeah.
Oh, that's been so cool, like seeing
That
all
was
the moments
amazing.
you remembered and loved, but like come to life, and oh yeah, I can imagine.
Oh man,
my God.
that is interesting. Yeah, because Shadow and Drowned are a little older. I'm sorry. They're a little older, so you guys are a little bit. I was like
Not
a
quite
baby.
Master Roshi.
Yeah, I was.
They're higher level.
Yeah, they're higher level. There we go. So they played these games before we
seasoned,
did.
really.
More seasoned, yeah. Because I remember I was playing Final Fantasy VI, and Drowned was like, oh, it was like what? You were 14, you said, when the game came out.
So I got both of them the same birthday.
Yeah.
I was 15.
And I was like, how was this for you as like a 15-year-old in 1994? And he's like, oh, it was like so cool for our time, because I was like an infant. I couldn't play those games, obviously. But like, I just wish I like could have gone back and experienced that like you guys did. But also, Drowned, what did you think of like the new art style? And I think you had some things to say about that.
Thanks, Basil. So I'm going to go out and say I actually am not they're good in terms of what they are. Obviously, they're quite nice animations, but I just generally find that, for me, because they weren't in the original, they just seem superfluous in certain ways, because it's like the choices are weird in certain ways, because you don't, apart from on the one that's on the credit scene, you don't actually get one until you meet Robo. There isn't one introducing Chrono, Mar, and Luca.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And their choices of when they occur are kind of weird.
Right.
I just think, but because of the fact you get the original scene and the anime scene as well, it seems like it doesn't really seem that necessary. I mean, they all look fantastic, but it just seems like I didn't need them. It didn't really. It's like, yeah, they're nice, but they don't really add much for me.
Okay. Fair. So just a couple comments from the chat. So Lieutenant, when we were talking about the game developers, so Lieutenant Nerd, who cannot be with us today, but that's okay, with us in spirit. It was Square Enix before Square Enix was a thing, is what he said. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's so true.
Square.
Yeah. So it had Sakaguchi and, oh god, I'm going to pronounce these names so wrong because I didn't have time to practice. Yuji Horii, FF. Huh?
Oh no, I said that you're pronouncing everything fine.
Oh yay, okay. Come together in a rival franchises from two rival game companies that ended up merging years later. I didn't know they were different companies. They were rivals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Wait, Squaresoft and the merger with Enix?
No, it was Squaresoft at the time it came out, right? So it was
Squaresoft.
Yeah.
It was Enix.
It had just recently became Squaresoft.
I think they became Enix after FF10 and Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yes.
I think it was like right after.
I mean, the main thing was obviously after Spirits Within bombed.
Oh
massively.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they we need money, merge with us, please.
Right.
Yeah, help us. All right, so let's move on. So I was going to talk about the time travel element because this is the main part of the game. I hate time travel for one. I get really confused and just sometimes it's very convoluted and I just cannot figure it out. Sometimes I'm trying to think. Kingdom Hearts is the biggest one right now where it's just a mind fuck of time and I can't think of anything with it. But so sometimes games and stories that incorporate time tend to just kind of flop because they are so complicated. Kingdom Hearts I put in all caps in my notes, but how did Chrono Trigger succeed at the time travel element? Because sometimes it can work and sometimes it can't. So Katie, what do you think? Because you were like, I love time travel. Give me all that. So
I thought about this for a while, and I've been thinking about this recently, and I have a theory that time travel never works if it's not part of like the main plot. You know what I mean? Like if a story just tries to add time travel, but it wasn't like originally a time travel story, then that's usually when it falls apart. Like I liked it, but I played FF8, and I'm like, why does this game have time travel? This game doesn't need it. Just makes it so much weirder, and it doesn't work at all. Whereas Chrono Trigger, it's entirely built around time travel, and it's the main driving force for why the story is continuing to go and go. And it's also it never makes it more complicated than it needs to be. It's despite it like dealing with time travel, it's still very linear.
I thought that too. Very simple and clean.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine.
It does this interesting thing where like even when the characters have temporarily like left one of the time periods, time like is still continuing to go as they're not there. So when they come back to that time period, it's as if like time was passing while they were gone. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but it works so much better like dramatically.
Yeah.
So Chrono Trigger's time travel, honestly, it doesn't even like follow most conventional time travel rules, but I kind of like that about it because it's instead more just like a backdrop for why things are happening rather than like
the main reason.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It never gets too complicated. It's very linear. It's just kind of your reason for seeing all these different places and stuff.
Wonderful. Yeah.
That's what makes it work so well.
What were you gonna say, Vanessa? Oh, okay.
Oh, I just had a question. So like, in Chrono Trigger, when they time travel and they change something, does that create like a whole new timeline, or?
They go. That's actually the like precipice of the entire plot of the game is they're trying to undo something. So like, yeah, there's definitely that. There's definitely like cause and effect and going back and especially, I don't want to spoil too much, but like later on in the game, that becomes like a major driving force.
Ooh.
Like it's the ability to go back and change the past to. So yeah, it's definitely there.
Oh wow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because Vanessa, you said in your notes kind of like like your thoughts just about time traveling games in general. What were your thoughts about time traveling games before playing Chrono Trigger? Like,
well, right now, like, so Final Fantasy VII Remake, it seems they're trying to do like a whole like time travel, well, not necessarily a time travel thing, but basically sorry for anyone who hasn't finished it yet, but like they changed fate, and so something else is different, and I'm just wondering, is it like part of one timeline, or is it like separate timelines? And then on top of that, like when you go back and you change something, I don't know, I'm kind of big on like development too, so I feel like when you change something in your past, you lose the lessons you learned now. So I was just kind of wondering how that affects everything.
Yeah, it's a part of it. It's a part of it. It's actually even bigger. It's actually even more part of it kind of in the sequel.
okay.
Oh yeah.
Chrono
Yeah,
Cross.
the sequel, Chrono Cross, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So apart from that, Shadow, what was kind of your thoughts about the whole time travel situation in this game?
I mean, I have a physics degree. I'm a big
Oh.
time travel nerd.
Oh
There
shit.
you go.
One of my favorite PC games of all time is actually a point-and-click adventure where you're like a time cop. So I gobbled it up, and that was the huge selling point for me with Chrono Trigger, is that they actually advertised that you can get different endings in the game, and that was like unheard of, especially for a JRPG.
Nice.
And so yeah, like I'm all about time travel and like screwing things up and then trying to like figure out what happened, what went wrong, trying to fix something, but then like you get the butterfly effect and you make things worse. And yeah, I love things that just keep my head spinning. Like the feeling that you have, like that nausea you get, I love that. For me, that's like a psychological roller coaster for me.
Because I'm literally like, I don't know what's happening.
Like motion sick. I'm like excited.
Yeah. And then Summer, what did you think? Especially because Shadow and Drowned, you guys played this when you were 15, so like, did this
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sense?
So
yeah.
I was thinking along the same lines as what Katie was saying. Really, it was like there's time travel stories, and then there's stories that involve time travel.
Yeah, exactly.
And Chrono Trigger is a story which is about time travel. I mean, each time period is pretty much its own thing, and each has a story which is wrapped up, and then you sort of move on to the next stage of the story, and the next time period, and then obviously later on it kind of becomes a bit more open, and you go back and forth through side quests in the various areas. But Chrono Trigger is built from the very beginning. It's a time travel story. You know, it doesn't. It also kind of keeps it. Apart from the fact you do get a time machine, but it actually keeps it kind of like. Although I believe there might have been issues to the translation, but it keeps it kind of a bit on, and not quite doesn't fully reveal why there are time travel gates.
Right.
So I think.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's obviously, but there are other ones other games I can think of where it's a story which features time travel and then somewhat makes a mess of it. Life is Strange's first series is what I was thinking there,
God.
really.
Yeah. So
Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, Kingdom Hearts. Oh.
I've not experienced any of the time travel stuff in Kingdom Hearts. The only other one I can think of to time travel, which is a comedy point and click, so therefore, Day of the Tentacle is fantastic. That's all about time travel, but it's just a comedy, so
yeah,
taking the piss doesn't really matter.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts just kind of made it too much. They went too far.
That was the moment I kind of like locked out on the story.
Oh, same.
That's what I wanted to add too.
I still like the games, but the moment they threw in time travel, I'm like, done with the story.
I know. Go ahead, Doctor. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say it's so funny because like I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. I've like day one gotten every release of the game that came out, and I will say if you ask me questions about the lore, I'm gonna give you a hard pass because I don't know what's going on. You know, like I just don't. I know some things, but like a lot of things, I'm just like, yeah, this went over my head.
It's funny because my boyfriend and I, when I got 3, I was so excited, and then about a year later, he goes, so do you like Kingdom Hearts 3? And I was like, I didn't like it. And he was like, I knew you didn't like it. Because I was like, oh, it was so good. It was so great. But I was like secretly hiding my pain that it really was, that it really was just a fucking mess. So, yeah.
I've not finished it, and I just have no impetus to want to go back and touch it.
I hear that a lot.
See, I loved it. I just didn't get it. But I just love the gameplay. Like, I just love seeing Sora again. He's my boy.
Exactly.
I'm just excited. So I'm just excited to be here.
Right.
I still play for the music, the combat, the characters. I still play it for that. I'm so sorry I interrupted.
No, you're totally fine. I was gonna say, it was like the only reason I liked it was because I wanted to see the characters again, and it was like, oh yes, my babies, but I just hated the story. Yeah.
Time travel could totally make like the story go corny, or it could work.
Yes, that's what you put in. Yeah, and with ChronoTrigger it worked. It seemed like, so they made it work.
Yeah.
So I wanted to add a fan comment in. So Basil says that time travel is acceptable if it is just for a side fun thing where it doesn't add or take away anything like an odd DLC or side quest. And like Katie, you said, as long as the story revolves around it, then it's kind of like good to go, you know.
Yes, I think I'd probably be on the opposite side of that. Like, I could see where that, like, the logic behind that, like, yeah, it can be fine if it's used as like a side thing, more like that. But I think I firmly do believe, like, if a story does revolve entirely around time travel, if it's a time travel story, then it can work.
Right.
Yeah, ChronoTrigger is a good example, yeah.
Right. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next question. So, whenever hearing reviews for this game, people talk about the characters constantly. And then, Katie, I think it was you who told me there were, like, 40-something characters in Chrono Cross, the sequel?
Yeah, there's like 40.
Right.
There's a lot, yeah. So
Let's not discuss Cross on this one.
Oh my gosh. So people are always talking about the characters. So I was going to ask you guys, who is your favorite character in the game? And at what... I'll ask them a different question later, but who is your favorite character? I've only played for 2 hours. I say that a lot, but I love Frog. So I will say I do love Frog. So Katie, who is your favorite character in Chrono Trigger?
It's Frog.
Yes!
Yeah, there's another character who's definitely up there as well, really close, but it would be spoilery to talk about it.
You can say it. It's okay.
The idea's all Chrono. Okay,
yeah.
the
villain in the game, his name is Magus. Well, yeah, one of the villains in the game's name is Magus. He is a terrific character, for really, really good reasons. But Frog is awesome. He's one of the deepest characters in the game. His whole thing kind of revolves around like the past and like regrets.
Yeah.
And like getting over like past trauma and stuff. That's something that resonates with me quite a bit.
Right.
And I remember like they're not like the deepest characters ever, but Chrono Trigger definitely was ahead of its time, I think, in that. Like at the time they were really it was definitely a cut above most, like, for sure.
Wow, yeah.
It's one of the reasons like I would love to see I kind of wouldn't, but at the same time I would love to see like them try a remake, just because they could expand upon the characters even more.
Oh, I know.
And I already have like all my fan ideas of like, you know, like what you do like with that and stuff. But
I know
if they did, they need to go use the original translation for his dialogue, not the S version.
Right.
They need to which
keen on that. Because in the original SNES version, he actually talks. They dropped this with the DS version.
Oh no,
yeah.
Which one did you prefer? Sorry.
In the SNES version, he speaks in Old English, in like the ye old butchery old English,
right.
which nobody else talks with, and it's kind of it's this whole. He's got this sort of romantic idea of what a knight is, and that's what he's trying to be.
Yeah.
And then that's Frog's whole character arc, really.
And you prefer that one? You prefer the other one, the SNES?
Yeah.
The old.
Oh,
English.
okay.
I wonder if that's.
Question.
What? Sorry, go ahead, Vanessa.
Sorry. ArcWizard Drake and I were wondering, what did you rename Frog when you were naming them after DB or Dragon Ball characters?
Vegeta.
Vegeta?
because you do eventually see what Frog looks like as a human, and he looks like Vegeta.
Oh my god! I forgot that frog actually isn't a frog because I was like, wow, I hate frogs, but like I want this frog to save me. I just feel like I can trust it with my life. That was kind of my thing. But I wanted to ask, so Summer, I want to ask you a question. Do you think it's because, and this is really weird, but as kind of an American British person, do you think it's because you are British and you prefer that language? Because as both, I don't mind the Old English.
I think a lot of it's the nostalgia of playing the original version and then not really playing that version until last year is a notable difference in terms of the back translation.
So it's more of like nostalgia.
I love what you said though, like that he has like a romanticized version of what I've never heard that. Like that reason for that. That's great. I love that.
Because I also like that about...
You got me thinking differently about that, about his old way of speaking now. I love that.
Right, because Cyan did that in Final Fantasy VI, and I love that. I was like... I loved reading it. Like, I can't think of an example right now, though, but like, you know, like just like the thys and the tis and that, the Old English. I think it's kind of like fun when they do that. But, so who's your favorite character? Doctur.
This might be a lame answer and reason why, but I really love Robo. And the big reason for me is because I'm a software engineer. I love all things technology.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just love the robot.
You're like Luca.
Oh, you are like Luca. Oh, that is. I know Luca. Who's your favorite character, Shadow?
It's Luca.
Luca. Oh.
Oh yeah. Luca is probably most people's. From what
I am. Yeah, I'm a huge sucker for nerds. Like Donatello is my favorite Ninja Turtle. Tinkerers, you know, so I was totally like huge adolescent crush on Luca.
Aw. And then Drowned, who is your favorite character?
Hylia, actually.
Hylia, okay. I've not met them yet. But
Hylia is the cave woman lady who also the name is taken from the GNML books released.
Oh, okay.
Ted Woolsey took a lot of things from various different sources, but I just like the fact that the character is basically she's a lot of her dialogue in certain points when you first go to the prehistoric era and you meet if you've got Robo in the party, there's an additional line which is quite funny because they try to explain what a robot is, and I just like the fact that she's a very versatile character. She doesn't Hylia was just fantastic. The fact she was somewhat no nonsense in terms of the fact that obviously she's a lot more. Her approach to things is a lot more simplistic, and the fact she's got some of the best she does have some of the best lines in the game, and also at one point touches Miles' breasts.
What?
Which does occur in one of the live side quests. If you take Hylia for one, it's Miles' side quest. If you take Hylia with you near the end, there's basically a point when it's just like. She's sort of like, well, you're not big enough to leave the nest just yet, and it's very clear that she's clearly indicating the fact that clearly you've not developed as a woman enough. That's why you can't become.
Hylia's kind of hinted to be bisexual too, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Really? Oh wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Vanessa, do you have a character that's sticking out to you yet? Have you do you know any of the characters yet?
Oh yeah.
Which one sticks out to you?
Well, so far, Frog, because if Katie's going to compare him to Vegeta, and Vegeta's my favorite character in the series, for like a stupid reason, only because like that one episode where, how do you say his name? Beerus or whatever? He like slaps or hurts Bulma, and then goes Super Saiyan, like, you hurt my Bulma, and I'm just like, oh man. He's king. There you go.
So we have
just talk about Dragon Ball 2 for like hours.
Oh, I love Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch it. It's been years. So we have a couple fan favorites. So Lieutenant Nerd said that Glenn is his favorite character, and then Bobo says Zarbin, or no, maybe not. You just said Zarbin would work too. Who else? And then Lieutenant Nerd was like, oh yeah, Isla's fantastic, and Gokuma said that Isla was one of his favorite characters as well. So I just love Frog, man. I trust him. All right, so then next one. So we're going to talk about kind of the new game plus, and I've seen Alto take advantage of this quite often. He's a member in our community, and he's always like replaying different parts of the game. But so new game plus, so starting at the level that you ended at and being able to kind of redo the story, or kind of at any point. This was the first time that many players have ever seen something like this. What did you think of this when you first played it? So some of you played I don't know, was it in the SNES version or just the DS version?
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of this? So I'm going to start that off with Summer, I'm going to start that off with Summer. So what did you think of that kind of
it's
feature?
broken. It's hilariously broken and completely unbalanced.
Really?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's also a way of getting, obviously, there's at least a couple of points in the game where the game gives you a choice for, you can have this piece of art, this item, or these items, or you can obviously go back and redo that and get, but the game doesn't scale up with whatever level you finished it at.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the early game stuff is like, you'll just demolish it because you're now a level 60 character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Nerd said in all caps, yup. So to your comment, Doctor, did you take advantage of that or anything since you recently played it, or was it kind of just like...
No, I have not. I've actually not completely finished the game quite yet. I'm almost there, but so I'm not, but I will say that from what I know about the New Game Plus, I think a lot of video games actually fail at New Game Plus because they simply just make it kind of harder.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm thinking of is the Souls series. It's already a hard game, but then you beat it and you still have your stuff and you go on. It's the same exact thing, but just a little harder. It's not terribly interesting.
Right.
So I think ChronoTrigger handles New Game Plus mode way better than almost any other game has ever had since. So because you can go back and there's actual incentive to go back and do things differently, other than hey, it hard now, So,
yeah, exactly. What about you, Katie? Did you take advantage of the New Game Plus feature or anything?
Oh yeah, I mean many times I agree with pretty much what Doctor said. I don't care that much about being super strong. That doesn't appeal to me in games.
Right.
Some people like that. I've never been super into it, but it's more the New Game Plus is really more of a way for me personally to see all the other different outcomes and stuff.
Right.
So you can see what the dialogue would have been like in this scene had you had this character instead. Or of course, almost all endings in the game are only possible on New Game Plus, all the alternate endings. So there's that too. It's just like a discovery thing.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
yeah, I would say if anything, the gameplay part of New Game Plus is probably the least important part with Chrono Trigger. It's more just discovering a whole bunch of new things along the way.
That's nice.
Yeah,
though.
it's more there for the endings than anything else.
And if anything, just being overpowered is really more just a way so that you can keep going through it faster. So you can see all the outcomes and stuff faster and faster, and you won't feel bogged down by it because you're so strong. You're just gunning through it.
Right. I think that is useful with the different endings because Final Fantasy VII-R has this feature as well. But the only reason to do it is for the platinum trophy. It's not to have another ending. So I kind of agree with that. Shadow, what did you think?
I loved it. I love being overpowered and going back and blasting through it. I like having my time respected. And that's one of the things I hate about modern games is how grindy and all of that they get. And it's dude, I've got a job and
yeah.
I can't drop 200 hours in your game. I've already seen this part. Let me be able to blast through it because I've earned it. This is the second time through. Let me do that. Also, shout out to the frog ending and the developer room ending. I don't think the developer one required New Game Plus, but I mean it was so long ago it's hard to remember. Because I did a mix. I did New Game Plus for a bunch to try to see a lot of things that I missed or see where things are different. But then I also just started new save slots as well. Just to redo things differently and explore the different endings. It's just kind of a blur in terms of which ending did I do as New Game Plus or did I do it just as a new save.
Okay.
But I loved it. It was fantastic. It gave me the replayability that I wanted. I got to stay in the world longer.
Nice. All right. So next question for you guys. What would you go with? Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger? Just a personal favorite. This is a hard one because both of them I think have their own amazing things and you guys love them very much. But which one is your favorite? Final Fantasy? Because we're a mostly Final Fantasy topic, but we go over. So, Katie, what about you? Let's start with you.
Yeah, mine's probably pretty obvious.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
She's gonna say Final Fantasy.
I think I'm happier though that the Final Fantasy is the series that kept going. You know, like Chrono Trigger doesn't necessarily need to keep going. It's such a great story on its own, you know. So I'm like, yeah, like I'm happy that I love Final Fantasy. Like FF10 is like in my top 10 games. So like, but yeah, I mean it's Chrono Trigger, obviously.
Of course, I feel like it would get a little bit too murky, like the story, because it is time travel, and I feel like when these time travel games do a good job and they keep going, it just gets out of control.
Oh yeah, the sequel proves that entirely.
Does it? Okay, because I'm like, I know nothing about the sequel.
Chrono Cross is a good game, but its story is convoluted as shit. It's so wow, yeah.
They were like, let's just stop now.
It's a handful.
Of the 2 sequels to it, yeah.
Yeah. 2.
Wait, so how many Chrono Trigger games are there then? There's just the 2?
There's technically 3. There was another one called Radical Dreamers, which was kind of like the first go at making Chrono Cross, but they weren't happy with it, so then they made Chrono Cross.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I just thought it was the 2. I didn't even know Chrono Cross was part of Chrono Trigger, stupidly enough for me. But like that was, yeah.
Oh, no, there's a lot of games that have Chrono in the title, and I'll see it. Like I'll see like an announced game with Chrono in the title. I'm like, what? Oh, okay.
Never mind.
Some manga series that for me it was like, yes, it's some sort of Chrono Trigger. Oh, it's not. It's nothing.
Oh man, that's a ripoff.
Exactly.
It's like they almost need to like copyright that name, but they can't because it's like a basic word. But what about Doctur, Final Fantasy or Chrono Trigger?
I'm so sorry. It's so easy for me, Final Fantasy.
I
am such a Final Fantasy nerd. It's unreal. It's like the only thing I care about. What I like about Final Fantasy specifically, though, is I definitely don't like all the Final Fantasy games.
Oh no, I don't either.
There's ones out there that I don't want to name names to make people mad, but I think some of them are pretty trash.
But can you say one of them?
I think that I'm not. Yeah, you know, definitely know one of them. But I think that's kind of healthy for the game because there are people out there that think those games that I hate are I feel called out.
Oh shit! I forgot.
But some of the people I've talked to and chatted with online have a different opinion on the games that they think are good and bad, and so that to me says that while not all of them are great in my opinion, they are for other people. They're for other groups of people. They kind of transcend specific storylines and try to cater to one singular audience. Yeah. So I think, like I said, I think that's like really, really healthy for games. And like it does hurt my heart a little bit when a new Final Fantasy game's out, and because I get everyone every same day like special editions, and I play it, and like halfway through I'm just like, oh, I just don't like it.
Yeah. Okay, so it was funny.
That's cool that everyone has their favorite.
I think that was the point of it, though, because they're all so different, you know, like, it's kind of like some people like I'm going to say it. I'm going to fucking say it. I don't like 12 that much, and that's why I never finished it. So,
12, it's one of my top 3.
Really?
I need to finish it.
I'm a massive fan of 12, so, yeah.
I know, I need to finish it.
There's Ash on the shelf behind me.
Yeah.
I mean, most of all my FF stashes are pretty much 12 ones, so.
Right. We had some... What?
Huh? Nothing.
Oh, okay.
I was just commenting.
Oh, okay. So DrownedSummer, I need to say this out loud. He said shitning returns for lightning returns, and I like almost spit out my drink because that's so true. So, oh man. So
what are you talking about?
Oh my god. I'm glad I'm the only one who felt that way. It was shitning returns.
Look, I can quite happily get up and just find the copy and just snap the disc on stream if you want me to.
Do it. I will literally like.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't waste your money. Who did I not ask? Now I lost track. Drowned. Okay, so Drowned and Shadow. I'm interested for your guys' responses. So what about you, Drowned?
I will go with Chrono Trigger because it was pretty much of the two. I mean, I still loved 6, but I loved. Chrono Trigger has a special place in my heart. I mean, it was the game. It was the thing that made me write fan fiction.
Oh.
Which is still fucking out there.
Can we do a dramatic reading one day?
That fan fiction. It's a Chrono Trigger fanfiction that merges with Cthulhu mythos, and it's also blatantly ripping off Peter F. Hamilton and Neil Gaiman. We could read it. But I'm kind of like, there's bits and pieces on it. Yeah.
Sounds
It's
amazing to me.
I made not Final Fantasy. I made Kingdom Hearts fan fiction, so they are cringy.
It's still on fanfiction.net, and you can find it. And
Yeah, no, I should have mentioned that. Like, that's one of the reasons the game is so important to me. Is it made me want to be like a story writer, like a storyteller.
Really?
You know? Like that's like the one I think of when I'm writing stories. Is like, okay, what would ChronoTrigger do? You know, kind of.
What would Square Enix do? Yeah.
Yeah. What would the Dream Team do?
What would the Dream Team do? Shadow, what about you? Final Fantasy or ChronoTrigger?
So I'm gonna pick the brainy answer and say I would choose ChronoTrigger, and then I would use ChronoTrigger to go back in time and get all my Final Fantasy cartridges.
Oh, okay.
My answer's easy. It's Final Fantasy, definitely, because it's a series versus a game. And I'm just considering the question from the standpoint of, like, could I have all my Final Fantasy games on a deserted island, or even just my favorite Final Fantasy game versus just having ChronoTrigger? And I would choose Final Fantasy. I've replayed it so many times more than ChronoTrigger.
Oh,
in fact, I want to replay ChronoTrigger now, but Final Fantasy, I've played them like hundreds of times over.
Right. All right. I've got a few more questions for you guys. That was just a fun one because I'm curious, like people who have played both, what they're kind of, and it seems like everyone's like ChronoTrigger except for Doctur here. But you know, my next question is, I'm gonna skip a couple, but like, what was your favorite ending? Because there is multiple endings. So me and Vanessa obviously can't speak on this, but so you guys are going to. So Katie, what was your favorite ending, or like the most influential?
I'm boring. My favorite is the standard one, just because like, well, there's like variations on the standard one, very minor, but it's probably just the standard one because you get the most complete story, you get the longest story, you get the full arc of Magus's character. It's kind of a corny, like very much wrap it all up in a big bow ending. It literally ends with like fireworks and stuff, but for me it means that I got the most complete possible story, so that's why I prefer that one.
Right.
And the ending when they're all kind of saying goodbye, it always gets me a little bit. So it doesn't have the best ending in like a game ever, but
it's good enough.
Yeah.
It gets
really.
Right. What about you? And Doctur said, he put in our notes, don't ask me, I haven't finished. What about you, Shadow?
Oh,
I do have a comment, though. I have a question.
What is it?
I voice my question. Is there a canon ending to the game? Like, is there any ending that is considered the canon ending of Chrono Trigger?
The Oath ending is considered the most canon.
The what?
Which one?
The Oath ending with Luca and Magus, like the very vague, you don't know who wins the battle.
Okay. That's the canon one.
That's the most canon.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh, is that like a your preference thing, or?
Well, which one do you think, Katie, is most canon?
I would just go with the again the main one, just because that just seems to me like the one they intend to be. It's the only one you can. It's like one of the only ones you can get the first time around. I do know that I think it's the producer. Like everyone has kind of a different like opinion on like what they think is the canon ending, and I think it's the producer. He thinks that the frog ending is like in his idea, in his mind, that's the canon ending to the game.
Did I not say frog? That's the ending that I was talking about.
Luca and Magus.
Oh my god! You know, because I'm still thinking Luca in my head.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean Luca. I meant frog, but in my head, I guess I'm still thinking.
Like he's been asked, and I think he said something along the lines of like, "Well, there's no specific answer, but I think it's this one." And yeah, he says the one where frog goes.
Yeah, that's exactly the one.
Magus. Yep.
The one that's kind of meant now. I thought the one that's kind of meant to be the most canon is kind of the one that is the new one, the one that bridges.
Oh, sure.
Trigger and Chrono Cross, which could frankly just confuses things. But,
yeah.
Time travel. Yeah. Drowned, what was your favorite ending?
I think it's the one. I mean, I do like the main one, and with the different variations. There's some absolutely fantastic bits in that, especially the whole point where obviously they're at the Millennial Fair, and they're all saying goodbye, and Luca's about to break down because she basically says, "Why are you break and why are you sad?" It's like, because Robo's going back, basically change the future. we don't actually know if Robo is going to exist in that future, which is a brilliant bit. And then obviously you get like the confirmation that he's still there. But one of the ones I really liked was the one that's leading up to the stuff you're doing in finishing off the Zeal stuff, and you've kind of got the stuff where one of the ones with that where it's basically you're getting the stuff to do with the Prophet and going through to what's happening.
Okay.
That was really quite cool.
Okay. And then Shadow, did you answer your favorite or just which one you thought was canon? I can't remember.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
When
so
you give the mouse money back to Frog.
Okay. It seems like
And
everyone likes Frog. Frog is just
Vegeta. The Vegeta ending.
Vegeta ending, yeah.
Awesome.
There you go.
All right, so we have a ton of other questions, but I am just going to skip a few because so I don't want to say like raise your hand, but so did all of you guys play now both versions, or Katie, have you only played the DS version? Did you go ahead and play?
I've played all of them.
Okay,
I've played every version multiple times.
Because
Yeah.
there's oh god, there's that SNES. I always say this wrong. SNES, PSX, and the DS, and now there's the Steam version. So I mean, which platform did you guys prefer? So I've only played the Steam version. I think it's fine. It's great. Doctor, what about you?
I love the Steam version, not just because it's the version I have, but it's because I really like having all my games in one like central location.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. And then Shadow, what about you? Because you've played very early on.
This one's tough for me because it's like I love the Super Nintendo version, especially the music for Prehistory, but like I have to give it up to the anime cutscenes on the PlayStation.
Okay. Yeah, that is definitely interesting. Do they not have that in the Steam version, or so is it just the
Steam version is the DS version. There's one thing they took out. There's one thing they took out of the Steam version, and that's the arena.
Okay.
Which is they added to the DS. Apart from that, it's pretty much exactly the same.
Okay.
I think it's missing one of the cutscenes, one of the anime cutscenes.
It might be.
Why.
Actually,
I don't know why, but it is. Like,
Oh Lord.
Are you?
They always choose to like cut out the weirdest things. And then so Katie, which one did you prefer? Because you've played all of them above and beyond.
I think hands down the DS version is the best version of the
Right.
game. I actually made a video about it. Which version should you play?
Oh, you
And,
did?
Like, yeah, I did, and I just love the DS version.
What makes it so special? Is it because it was like the first one you played on, or is there like a
It was
reason?
the introduction of the new script, which I prefer like way more. The original script was like, it was translated by a guy named Ted Woolsey, who did like a lot of the older like SNES, like older Square games.
Mm-hmm.
And so translation wasn't like as far along or as easy to do back then. He kind of added a lot of his own little spins to things and like fun bits to the dialogue, which is like cute. A lot of people love that part of it, but for me, I'm more of like a fan of like the serious things. Like there's like a line like Magus says in the original, and it's very kind of like more jokey, and it's like, that doesn't really fit his character. But then the original they change, or in the new one they change it to make it like more serious. It's stuff like that. So that's a big reason for me. But then I think it looks the best too, because it's just so crisp on that little screen.
Yeah.
And it technically has the most features of any of them, but it's like arguable whether or not like it even matters, because some of those extra features aren't really worthwhile, but they added them just for for me it's hands down that one, but it's also one of the toughest ones to get a hold of and play correctly. So
That's crazy. Yeah, it just seems like it was a hard game to get. Like not even that, but you guys were saying how the SNES version was even hard. So
$80.
$80.
yeah.
Dude, $80 in 1995 was no joke. I felt like such a G walking into Toys R Us like, yeah, I'm getting my Chrono Trigger today.
That's an very old-timey sentence.
Very old timey. You just showed your age there. Like
Totally. No shame at all.
Your age.
I've been in
Back in
I'm
my
pretty
day.
certain my games are cheap.
oh my god. So Drown, what was your favorite
I will I do actually like the fixed up script, even though the Woolsey version does add some iconic stuff to it. I mean, because the naming of the Magus' generals comes from that version, as well as the name of the gurus. And I do agree that script actually fixes things up. But I do kind of I think it's because I find the content in the DS version to be a bit, the new stuff to be quite mixed. Well, one particular bit to be exceptionally mixed. So I think, and there's also the nostalgia factor of it being one of my first proper RPGs I ever played. So I think for me it's the SNES version.
Right, of course. And then Vanessa, what version did you download? That is my question for you. What is your downloaded version? Did you go and get the SNES version, or were you like, nah?
Oh my god!
No,
I would.
no, she didn't.
No, I went the easy route. I got the Steam version because it's there.
Right.
But now I'm just like, shit, I gotta go buy a DS, and now I gotta go track down the cartridge.
I need to go find a Toys R Us.
I do need to stress that the Steam version is more than good. Like it's the version, like when people say I want to play the game now, that's the version I tell them, because it's so cheap, it's so easy to get, and it's barely worse than the DS version. It used to be really bad when it first came out, but they fixed it up, and it's
good.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, that's really
There's one thing it adds, which is like a health bar under all the characters in combat, which you can't turn off.
Oh, I like that feature because I'm like, oh, okay, I know where everybody is. But what was I gonna say? Shoot, I just forgot.
That's one of the reasons it's good on the. Sorry.
No, you're fine. It's okay. I totally forgot what I was gonna say. So go ahead.
Oh, that's one of the reasons it's great on the DS is because there's 2 screens. So the UI, the entire UI is on the bottom screen if you want it that way. And then they do have the health bars, but it looks great because the whole top screen is just the characters. There's no UI, it's all on the bottom.
So they really took advantage of that. Yeah. Okay,
I like
interesting.
that.
I like that, yeah, because I'm like, I would rather play it like that too, because that's like, yeah, they really took advantage of it then. Because I feel like some DS games, they really don't know what to do with the 2 screens, so they just kind of like, fuck all, like Pokemon. Sometimes they just had a picture. Right? Yeah, and it was like, what do I do with this? Anyways, we don't speak of the mobile version. There's a mobile version. Tell me more.
Yeah, I was not impressed with that tablet port.
Don't play that version.
Oh God, is it a Hot Mess Express?
No.
You guys are just like, I don't want to speak about it. So last question for everybody about Chrono Trigger. So I'm going to ask, what was your favorite moment in the game? This is the last question. So, so far, my favorite moment in the 2 hours I played it is the beginning in the carnival. I don't know what it is up with me and like fairs and carnivals and games, but I just get like this weird feeling and I love it. So I'm just like, oh, like that kind of, I was like, oh, this is so beautiful when I was playing within the first 10 minutes. So, Katie, what about you? What is your favorite moment in the game?
There's a scene that occurs about halfway through where you're in the prehistoric age and you're on a bridge, and it's just after defeating the reptiles. Like A-list people have officially defeated the reptiles, and it's really kind of sad because they make this like villain character out to be more sympathetic, but then can I say it or
do it? Okay? Go ahead. Yeah.
Lavos falls from the sky, and you discover that he is actually the meteor that killed the dinosaurs.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why it's my favorite part. There's something about like the music of it and the way it looks. It's just that part always I don't know. It always sticks out to me for some reason.
Oh my god. It's like a surprise. Yeah.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's a little surprise, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Shadow? What is your favorite moment?
Well, Katie took my answer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's the first time with Lavos, and then the whole connection with the dinosaurs, and me being a science nerd. But like, I love the prehistoric era, just altogether, and like I would just sit there and just listen to the music, just to like let it play in the background as I'm like playing with my whatever action figures or reading my comics and stuff. So yeah, totally the same exact answer. That moment was like, oh shit.
Oh man.
It was like the big oh shit moment for me in the game, and so it's like, damn.
Yeah. What about you, Doctor?
I may be kind of specific, or not super specific rather. But I read a lot, and the types of books I really like to read are like dystopian, future, like sci-fi. And so the entire segment going to the future I loved because it was just like kind of my jam. I also really, really like that weird mini game thing that you had to do where you had to race the biker. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like that. I thought that's another thing that kind of in the game. It's like, wow, this game is so different from other things I've played. This is so weird. So
Interesting.
I just really like the entire future segment. Plus, you meet my favorite character. So
Nice. All right.
that whole thing.
What about you, Drowned?
The entire sort of not the finale, but the entire conclusion to the bit in the Water Palace.
Oh yeah.
Where you've just got this sort of build-up of you've freed the Guru from Mount Woe, and it's basically like, right, you've got to stop what's happening, and then basically it's like this sort of desperate rush to get down there and basically stop things, and then it all goes to shit anyway, and basically the full of zeal and that just the entire bit is like you're on about you saw the opera sequence recently. And it's like, it's another one of those bits that's kind of on that sort of scale of just like the impressiveness of just the event that occurs in the game.
Right. Interesting, yeah. So we do have a couple fan comments about their favorite moments in the game. So Neomatter says that Frog's theme in splitting the mountain with his sword is one of the most epic moments in the game I've ever played. Yeah.
That's
And
pretty
then,
dope.
oh man, and then I can't pronounce his name. Help me. Arilu?
Arlen?
Arluth, that's my friend.
Arluth, yeah. They said, I like the start, how when you steal the guy's sandwich and stuff, it comes back to bite you in the ass. That's great.
So, it's funny, like this part that I was talking about, the part that everyone loves, there's a moment that happens right after that part that usually when I ask people that question, that they say is their favorite part of the game.
Wait, what is that part?
No one said it here. Yeah, it's a big thing with Luca. You find out a big thing about Luca. So I was surprised no one said it here.
Oh.
I messed that up the first time I played it.
Oh man.
Oh yeah,
You mean
same.
that bit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, same.
Right. And then Gokuma says that Magus's castle is my favorite part. So I've never heard this much diversity in a game with favorite parts. Usually it's like a
That's
couple.
because every part is that good.
There we go. There we go.
That's why.
I'm excited to play it now because I'm like I took it and then I kind of I was busy with Final Fantasy VI to be honest with you, but I need to get back into it. So
Stream it.
Same.
I do need to stream it. I will. All right. So any closing remarks? Anything you guys want to say to the fans or anything about Chrono Trigger that is like burning in your brain before we head off?
Lost Sanctum's fucking awful.
Oh dear. Oh my
When
god.
you were talking about earlier, I'm like, he's got to be talking about Lost Sanctum.
Oh my
I
gosh.
didn't play it until last year, and it's like,
Yeah,
this is
it's
such
bad.
a perfect game, and why is the design of this section just so fucking awful?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well.
not in the original, thankfully.
Oh lord. All right. So I mean, gosh, you guys hyped up the game even more than like people originally have hyped it. So I mean, I'm really excited. But Katie, thank you so much for coming and talking about Chrono Trigger. Man, you know your stuff. I'm impressed. I'm impressed by all of you guys.
Yes, thank you so much.
Your DMs
Thank
for
you
a lot.
so much.
Yeah, and thank you, chat, for being so active. And we will see you next week. We do not know our subject yet. We have not talked about it because 4th of July. I don't know. July's just a weird month. I feel like everyone's just.
It's a weird month within a weird year.
It was in a weird year. It's just a weird time. So we have not discussed what we're doing next week. But go ahead and follow us on Twitter. Join our Discord. It's all below the CarbuncleCast, Team Carbuncle. Thank you so much, you guys, and we will see you next week.